when we did the Alexander raid series, I took a screenshot of Alexander's soul crystal because I thought, bloody hell, that looks a lot like hydaelyn. If that is the soul of Alexander, and it looks much like what we imagine hydaelyn looks like, is that all we're chatting with, is like a crystalline form of her soul? Because that, you know, I know this is maybe me grasping at straws here. Maybe that is all that is we're looking at the soul of hydaelyn. And think how feckin' huge it is. Like, what if hydaelyn is nothing more than a primal? I don't think that's the case. Maybe it is the case, I don't know. But we believe in it. Alexander's crystal soul looks a lot like hydaelyn. Does that mean what we see is just her soul? She is referred to as the mother crystal. But does this also make hydaelyn some sort of mega primal? Why hello there YouTube, welcome to this brand new video. I figured I'd quickly give you a quick rundown on where I am in the story before the rest of this video continues. This is present day me, Endy. I'm currently making my way through Shadowbringers, the patch quests actually, at time of this video being published, specifically 5.2. So I'm only now going back to my VODs and condensing a few of the moments down into videos for YouTube for your enjoyment and perusal. And part of my journey has consisted of some corkboards, which I've used to visualize my theory crafting as I've made my way through the lovely world of Eorzea, Final Fantasy XIV. And this video comprises of corkboards which I've put together over the course of Heavensward and Stormblood. And this particular, you know, sequence of clips you're about to see came, I believe, in 4.2. So I was on the 4.2 patch quest in Stormblood, and I took a moment just to sort of go through all of my corkboards for chat. So all of the theories you see are built up of information that I've gleaned from the game over the course of A Realm Reborn, Heavensward, and Stormblood up to patch 4.2. So yeah, hopefully you enjoy. I know at least one of them has been a somewhat success. The clip you just saw a minute ago when I theorized about hydaelyn's origins. Trust me, there's more videos coming down the line regarding that. The Katana Ravel, meeting and chatting with Emmett. I've got all of those clips to be uploading soon, so keep your eyes peeled for those. And yeah, hopefully you enjoy the theory crafting as I make my way through the rest of Shadowbringers and inevitably get into Endwalker. I can't wait to see if any more of them are, you know, somewhat close to being correct. I'll have to wait and see. Anyway, thank you for watching. I really should be saying like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Hey, if you like the content, I think you'll do it anyway. So yeah, have a good viewing, and I'll hopefully catch you in the next video. I was just going to go through all of the corkboards that we've got and just remind ourselves of all of the things that have happened over the story and things that I've made notes on. This is at the bottom of the pile, is when Thordan says, "Who and what are you?" I imagine at this point he's maybe referring... He's got to just be referring to the Echo, or maybe the ability with which, or the power with which we're able to harness the Echo, or maybe something more than that. He kind of knew that we were the Warrior of Light, but in that moment, if you remember the scene, he looks up at us, like he's on the ground dying, and he looks up at us.
Who? What are you?
Like, that's some foreshadowing, right? A millennium of prayer. The power of the eyes of Nidhogg. And we were able to defeat all of them. And he's just in awe of us, you know? So that's why it got its own dedicated corkboard. I might update this with a screenshot of what we look like in the cutscene. Because it's amazing, isn't it? We've got Warriors of Darkness. Minfilia, acting as hydaelyn's emissary, has delivered the Warriors of Darkness back to their homeworld, the First. Which... I'll touch on it in a second. They were, much like us, blessed with the Echo. They were the saviors of their world, but that only served to accelerate the First's delivery into becoming consumed by light. They sacrificed their corporeal form on the First to allow them to travel to the Source. What will become of them, back on the First once they return? Will we ever meet again? I don't, like, we are able to return from the ethereal sea, right? That's how, like, resurrection works, right? In my eyes, anyway. Could we die here and then transport ourselves to the First and maybe reunite with them? I'll touch back on the First in a second. I've got another corkboard relating to inter-reflection travel, shall we say. Midgardsormr. He was chased to the star by Omega, and a time before time, his homeworld Dragonstar was under attack by Omega's race, and he fled with his clutch of 7. Hydaelyn offered him and his clutch refuge upon the planet, and he remarks, and this is during our first encounter with him when he's a spirit, "Hearken to me, Hydaelyn, I remember, and I consent." What is he consenting to? I don't think we've ever had it really explained to us fully what their agreement was. But they've come to some sort of agreement. Like, he was able to settle upon Hydaelyn, but I think there was they brokered a deal between each other. And maybe he's consenting to the deal in this moment. And then just after he says that, that's when he cuts off our ability to use our crystals of light. You know, they all dull because he's sort of taken them from us, right? We know of Tiamat, Ratatoskir, Racevelgar, Nidhogg, and Bahamut in-game. The Encyclopedia Eorzea, which I have to my right, mentions the remaining 2 children, Vitra and Azdaja, you know? Are they in Meracydia? I touch on Meracydia later in this thing. Anyway, soul crystals. When we did the Alexander raid series, I took a screenshot of Alexander's soul crystal because I thought, bloody hell, that looks a lot like Hydaelyn. Alexander's crystal soul looks a lot like Hydaelyn. Does that mean what we see is just her soul? She is referred to as the mother crystal. But does this also make Hydaelyn some sort of mega primal? Just something to consider. It'd go a long way to explain why the Echo prevents us from being tempered. Maybe she is like a super ancient primal thing? Don't know. We have soul crystals of our own, which allow us to change jobs and roles. You know, like we've got our little soul crystals which allow us to become a warrior or a dark knight or a dragoon. And again, I would like to go back and get a better screenshot of Alexander's soul crystal, but I remember when we saw it, it was like, that looks like Hydaelyn to me, you know? And if that is indeed her own soul crystal, I wonder what she would look like when you consider his soul crystal, in relative terms, was a lot smaller than hers. So, it'd be interesting to see what that looks like. Right, moving on. Graha, who we've not seen in a long time. Hopefully he comes back. Graha says, the tower may only be used once men rival Allagans in knowledge. I will slumber until then, to greet those with the means to open the gates, plural. Then I will guide them, and thus will the tower shine forth as a beacon of hope as it was meant to be. 'Tis the only way to make the wishes of the ancients come true. I'm assuming the gates, plural, will allow us to hop between reflections of the source, which brings me back. This is maybe our way to get over to the First without needing to die. Is maybe we use this. Do I think that's going to happen soon? No. I don't think so. I think that's like endgame stuff. But it'd be interesting to see if we can maybe go to one of these other reflections, which maybe haven't been tampered with. We only know of 2, the First and this void. So it'd be interesting, and maybe we can find other ones, and maybe we can hop between them at some point. I do have another one on the Crystal Tower. Boop. A beacon of hope. Could the Crystal Tower also be used like an interdimensional radio to deliver a signal to those other reflections, to let them know the truth of the cosmos, to reassure those whose worlds, whose light and dark isn't balanced? I've made a spelling error. Because it is like a mega aetheryte crystal, isn't it? And I think I mentioned this at the time, like, the Crystal Tower is... It's like a big radio tower made of aetheryte. Right? Know what I'm saying? Anyway, was there an Allagan who had the blessing of light? Did they come from one of the reflections? Were they in league with the Ascians? How else may they have known about the reflections and the source? You know? I don't know. There must have been. There must have been an Allagan way back when who had been blessed with the blessing of light, possessed the echo, could communicate with Hydaelyn and knew the truth of the fact that once upon a time the source was one individual thing that then got splintered into these, 13 reflections. And by the way, a lot of these are old corkboards. This is dating back to A Realm Reborn. But I know people in chat haven't seen them. I've not updated this. I probably should update these. But I think now that we've got more knowledge on, like what the Ascians are after, we can maybe do something with that. Anyway, moving on. Ignore that. Echo. Fairly recent, this one. I need to expand upon it because I want to talk more about... I'll touch on it as we read it. What is the true power of the Echo? So far, we've been able to use it to witness glimpses of past events. We've watched others like Isel use it to become avatars of primals, which, pretty cool. Lahabrea and Igiorum used their own Echo to fuse together into a being known as Ascian Prime. It never really ever expanded upon. We don't really understand how they were able to do it, but they fused into that one being, that one powerful being. And I think at the time I mentioned, like, what if we, as the scions of the Seventh Dawn, would be able to do something similar? Like, imagine if we can all, like, fuse into one powerful creature, I don't know. Lahabrea muses that all that stands between this world and darkness is an irksome anomaly in the ether. The Echo. Is the Echo a remnant of the source which existed prior to the division and birth of the reflections? Elidibus later says the Echo is indeed a gift, albeit one that you've yet to master. Mayhap as we grow stronger, we'll be able to better utilize its power. We are, in the grand scheme of things, relatively inexperienced in using it. Compared to, Ysel, who was able to use it to become an avatar of Shiva, Lahabrea and Igiorum, who were able to use it to become Mega Ascian, right? There's so much more we can use it for, but we're currently bound by spicy migraines, right? That's really all we can do. We occasionally go, oh no, I'm seeing the past. Maybe one day we'll be able to tap into that and draw some more power from the Echo. I do have another slide on the Echo. Here it is. Merely possessing the Echo prevents us from being tempted by primals. And this can go back to the earlier thing I mentioned about the idea that maybe Hydaelyn, and I guess in and of that, Zodiark as well, are like ancient mega super primals, right? Because maybe we can't be tempered because we've already been tempered, This might be full tinfoil, but it makes sense to me. Could we maybe bestow this gift upon others to prevent them too from being affected, or perhaps even follow in the footsteps of Aulus and his experiment on fordola, wherein it is extracted from us, made into a cure? All we know, or should I say I know, is the Echo is an anomaly in the ether, as was told to us, that is present here within the source. We are one of seemingly few who are gifted with it. The Ascians will seemingly possess it, and are proven to be far more capable than us at wielding it. How did the Ascians come to get the Echo? Another question, which hopefully we will one day have an answer to. At the minute, we don't have one. And on the topic of maybe making it a cure, I think I mentioned white auracite, but then you guys in chat were pretty quick to nip that in the bud. The idea that white auracite can't hold a etherical charge for long. I was surmising that maybe we could empower like a treasure trove worth of white auracite, and then use that energy to maybe bless others with our own Echo, in the same way Aulus was able to extract ether from all of those Alamegans and then give it to Fordola. Admittedly, a really twisted version of it, but still a successful transplant of the Echo into another, person. We've got a few left here, guys. Don't worry, we've got plenty more to come. Fordola is not looking to be redeemed in the eyes of the Alamegans, but rather seems to be trying to atone for her misdeeds by helping out whenever she can. She still possesses some sort of twisted, unrefined version of the Echo. The process required so much ether. I've just touched on all of this. The white auracite, right? And you remember the Ascians who gave the Echo to the Sahagin High Priest? Yeah, and then he was able to, control the other Sahagin. Yeah, I need to make a new one regarding the Crystals of Light. Because we now know of 3, I think. Right, we've got Tenzin's, crystal. We have Matoya's crystal eye, and we have our own. I don't think we know of any more at the minute, but maybe there'll be something to that, Anyway, I've touched on Fordola. Hydaelyn Zodiark. In the depths of the ethereal sea, light and dark once dwelled as one. The darkness coveted power which broke the balance. Hydaelyn, light in this instance, banished the dark Zodiark unto distant heavens, a moon bound. This is told to us through the voice of the mother. I can't remember. Word of the mother. It's at the bottom of the bloody screen. As the planet we reside on is known as Hydaelyn, is the moon which orbits us, Zodiark, given that he is moon bound, as told to us by the word of the mother. It would make sense. Maybe it's too simple? Who knows? But potentially that is where his own soul crystal lies, maybe within the moon. Next screen, Estinien. Nothing new here. I mentioned this rather recently. With the eyes of Nidhogg now permanently destroyed, what will become of Estinien? He's already shown an affection for us and Alphino. Will he join the Scions or remain a roaming vigilante? He does say, "Come, Nidhogg, we are needed," before he and his spear glow red. And has he been permanently enhanced by prolonged contact with the eyes? And again, at the time, we didn't have access to this, but we as Dragoons, at level 70, unlock a similar ability, Nastrond, and then I mentioned that in Norse myth, Nastrond is a location in hell in which Nidhogg resides, feasting on the corpses of Oathbreakers, which again is just like a neat little detail, I guess. But it's very interesting, because I feel like we as Dragoons, as the player character, like, we've not had prolonged contact with the eyes. Maybe our power comes from the echo or something. I don't know. Okay, next one. Source part 1. The source is both where the game is set, but also the original star, which the 13 Reflections are based off of. And by the way, I don't have these written out to try and teach you guys. These are notes for me. So if you're like, yes, Endy, we know what the source is, like, it's more for me as a... It's like my own little encyclopedia of my own thoughts. The original star, which the 13 Reflections are based off of. The sundering of the star did we cry out, and the barriers twixt planes chance to falter. They rejoice in their ardour, in your calamities, for each marks a rejoining. And again, this is all from the word of the mother, or the voice of the mother, you know what I mean. Minfilia speaking as Hydaelyn. For each marks a rejoining. 7 times have they succeeded, 7 times have the darkness grown stronger, so of the 13, only 6 remain to be rejoined. Interesting. As for what becomes of the worlds that are rejoined, Urianger mentions the following in the follow-up. Frail flesh undone in umbral fires, which would explain why they're umbral calamities, right? Each soul surrendereth to her call, to flow unto the endless sea, there to endure as one and none. If the first were to fall to transcendent light in the manner of the warriors of darkness described, it would give way into a void wherein none may know either life or death, much like the void we know of from the Crystal Tower raid series. Elidivus mentions, and again, we went over this earlier in a previous corkboard. Elidivus mentions, be it host to a surfeit of light or dark, a world bereft of equilibrium is but a void in waiting, and a void is of no use to my master. I shall follow her emissary with great interest. Which would mean the world of darkness and the first are of no use to them unless Hydaelyn fixes the balance on the first. Hydaelyn has gone on a mission to the first to try and absorb the light which threatens to consume it. Does Hydaelyn know that would work in favor of what the Ascians want? They don't want voids. They don't want a void of light or dark or whatever. They want balanced worlds, right? Maybe Hydaelyn doesn't realize that. Maybe she does. Who knows? Who knows? Whenever that next comes up in the story, I'm sure we'll find out more. And then finally, which I think is the most recent, but we've not looked at yet, Meracydia. A continent which I'm hoping we go to in the future, maybe in the next expansion, who knows? They proved the most formidable opponents to the Allagan Empire during the Third Astral Era, but ultimately they lost. Since then, they've remained reclusive and little is known of the continent. However, during the war with the Empire, they were able to summon 3 primals, or icons, Sephiroth, Sophia, and Zervan. The Encyclopedia Eorzea suggests that a third party was involved for them to have had the knowledge of summoning, which is interesting. What could that mean? Could that third party have been the Ascians in an attempt to maintain a balance between light and dark? Because had Allag, ancient Allag, maybe, completely destroyed all of Meracydia, they would have eventually just engulfed the entire planet and caused some big problems, maybe? So maybe the Ascians were there to maybe aid them in the summoning of their icons. I also wonder if any of Bahamut and Tiamat's brood still exist within Meracydia. Perhaps Vertra or Asdaya, I don't know how to pronounce them, they've not come up in the game yet, are protecting them. We know that that's where Bahamut and Tiamat lived upon their arrival on Hydaelyn. There's gotta be There's got to be, like, some dragons left over there, right? Surely. And then finally, last corkboard, it's Meracydia again. It's possible that the continent is still plagued with void scent. Part of Zahn's agreement with the Cloud of Darkness was to provide an unlimited supply of vessels to house minions of the void. Those vessels being the corpses of Meracydians who died in the conflict. Hopefully we visit at some point. I imagine there'll be legends of Bahamut as the dawn worm he once was, rather than the twisted version we've been privy to for most of the game. The continent may also possess unknown knowledge of the war with Alag and fill in some blanks in the annals of history. Yeah, that's it. Because you got to think, we've only known Bahamut as, you know, the one trapped within the moon, the primal, right? The twisted vision of him that was trapped within the moon, that exploded during the Battle of Cartano, who we find in the coils, right? Like, that's the Bahamut we know. We never knew him for what he once was. The pure of heart, the dawn worm that arrived here with his, you know, brothers and sisters millennia ago. And maybe there are long-forgotten stories about him waiting for us in Meracydia. Wouldn't that be cool? But yeah, that's all that's in the corkboards for now. There were older ones that I've deleted because they've just been redundant. Like, you know, where we've completed a storyline and there's no need to have it anymore. But they're the ones which I've kept around because I think they might have some information for the future. And yeah, I thought we'd go through them because people hadn't seen them all for a while. So there you go. I've got other theories and thoughts. Like, I'm convinced that we're going to run into the 12 at some point. Maybe not all of them. According to creation myth, they're in heaven somewhere. I'm like really hoping that if there is a confrontation, even when, because I think it's going to happen, even when the Empire come back to Doma, or, you know, if they were to go over and have a spat with the Alamegans, it'd be really cool if Ralgir appeared to save them, you know? Wouldn't that be cool?